told to dress up for sleazy functions by user Kat Rosenberg. When I was 19, I worked at a waterfront bar where sexual harassment was part of the job. KPMG were our neighbors and the investment bankers were totally entitled. I was waitstaff, which had the added bonus of having to wade through a dance floor with plates only to get grabbed, blocked and grinded up against. Management would tell us to laugh it off. Then it decided that for functions, female staff would be required to wear black cocktail dresses with heels. Staff pushed back over the heels. It was an OH&S suit waiting to happen given the wet floors and staircases, so management reluctantly dropped that demand. But they were adamant we had to wear cocktail dresses. I really had no interest in dressing up for the sleazy men that frequented that bar, but for whatever dumb reason I had at 19, I wasn't quitting the job. So I wore a cocktail dress, a black boob tube thing. I also decided it was time to grow out my pits. They never directly confronted me about my new body hair. They just put me out back to cut lemons for drinks all shift every time there was a function on. I do it happily, hang out with the kitchen staff in my totally inappropriate strapless dress. Those shifts were the best part of the job. Fine. I won't touch anything in the kitchen, but I use a lush petals. So my 13-year-old daughter recently got super into baking cupcakes, cookies, banana bread, you name it. She was doing great, but she does tend to leave a little chaos behind: flour on the counter, spoon in the sink, oven mitts everywhere. One day, after cleaning up yet another post-cookie explosion, I snapped a bit and said, "If you can clean up properly, and just don't touch anything in the kitchen at all." She nodded. Okay. The next week, I came home from work to silence. No sweet smells, no baking music from the kitchen. I figured she took it seriously. Then it hit me. The dishwasher, still full. The garbage, overflowing. The sink, piled with dishes. The groceries I asked her to unpack, still sitting in bags. I asked what was going on and she goes, "You said don't touch anything in the kitchen, remember? So I didn't." Touch. We were negotiated the rule nowadays. You can bake if you clean like a pro. She agreed. I got cookies. She got victory. Fair trade. Always had lanes for students to get them to class faster by user Turkey Ninja. I was a teacher at a middle school in 2014/2015 that was Title I school, extremely low income and test scores. The state government actually removed all administration staff 2 years prior for the whole district as the student outcomes were so low. The new admin came in with a micromanagement authoritarian directive to improve test scores. One of their brightest ideas was to put lanes in the hallways to manage flow and get students to classes faster. There were 3 lanes. 2 one-ways along the walls and a middle teacher-only lane. Within about 3 days, all the students were driving imaginary cars. They orderly followed one another, would let people into merge, use turn signals, and generally was pretty fun for a few days. The teachers would direct students at intersections and played along for a bit. The flow did slow down though, as students wouldn't pass each other and would have trouble merging into traffic around doorways. Another thing taking time was the students parking their imaginary vehicles outside the classroom. They would spend time backing them into spaces or have trouble parallel parking. The admin didn't like this and really started getting angry at the staff and students as so many kids were still tardy to class. They actively were handing out detentions and pretty angry at staff for playing along. This really triggered the students to start getting malicious. The students couldn't cross the middle lane, so they would have to walk down long hallways and make U-turns to see their friends or get to their lockers/classrooms. They started cruising the long hallways with their tricked-out imaginary lowriders. They would have shock noises even. Some of the really popular kids started a bus system where they had a schedule to pick up other students and deliver them to other classes. They would hold shoulders and move as a block. Sometimes the bus broke down at an intersection and blocked traffic for everyone. Drag racing started where they held up traffic and raced down the hallways. Police would pull people over and write tickets. The most annoying part was students needing to leave the classroom to check on their cars to make sure no one stole it. Sometimes a student would come back from the bathroom and ask if anyone was driving a type of car as it was being towed. The disruptions in class started to really get out of control. Admin thought it was going to be a phase and students would get bored. The best part about school for the students turned out to be the time in between classes. Everyone was tardy constantly. Eventually the lanes tape were ripped up and they shortened the passing period time by 2 minutes so students had to rush to class and couldn't spend any time in the hallways. The cars slowly died out and the new fad was needing to use the restroom during class time because the passing period was like 3 minutes long and not enough toilets to satisfy all the students legitimately. Students were written up for needing to use the bathrooms, so kids just started clogging toilets and peeing wherever. Other car things: flat tires, emergency sirens, car accidents, GPS problems, no gas, lost license, couldn't find keys, stole other kids' cars, repo cars towing cars. You have to stay till 6 p.m. by user quick pay 14.29. So about 10 years ago now, I worked the FIFA lifestyle and it was great. We would work 8 days on and get 6 days off. On the days we worked, it would be 12-hour shifts and ours was 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Anyway, we got this manager and they were good at first, but over time they became more strict. One day, we were leaving at 5:55 p.m., which was very common for us, as we carpooled from camp to site about 5 km away in our work vehicle, even with the boss. We would leave camp at 5:30 a.m. and be at work shortly after, usually commencing at 5:40 a.m. most days, if not earlier. So, one day after leaving 5 minutes early, we were pulled into the office and told that we had to stay until 6 p.m. moving forward. Even after we mentioned that we mostly ate at our desk instead of going to the lunchroom and cue malicious compliance. The boss would get to the car at the normal time 5:30 a.m. and we wouldn't get to the car until 5:50, even 5:55 a.m. at times. We stopped eating at our desks and took our 2 breaks away from work in the lunchroom. If disturbed, we'd ignore it or say we'd get to it after lunch. And we stayed till 6 p.m., even if work was completed. Some urgent tasks that were normally done while most people were on breaks stopped getting done or took longer. Sometimes the work carried over to the next day. The manager called on about 3 weeks later and asked us why. We explained what had happened. That afternoon, we were informed we could leave 5 minutes early moving forward as long as the work was done. Let us just say the manager only lasted another 6 months, not sure if they were forced out or quit. Tank driver tells me he doesn't want to see or hear from me, so he doesn't. English is not my first language, please be kind. Back when I was in the army, my tank driver was someone who you'd really not want to spend time with unless you absolutely had to, like, for instance, if you were in a tank crew with him and needed the tank to actually get from point A to point B. When it comes to crew breakdown in a tank, it goes like this. Tank gunner, my position, coolest job in the tank, you get to shoot the big gun. You also have to do the least amount of maintenance work on the tank. Loader does most of the bitch work in the tank. Has to carry and load multiple heavy tank shells till the 45 minutes 50 each. Not much maintenance work, but spends like 2 minutes 3 hours cleaning the 3 machine guns. Driver drives the tank. Pretty simple, but a good driver will give you a smooth ride. A bad driver will make you feel every dip and bump in the terrain. Does the most maintenance work since they are in charge of the tank tracks and bogie steel wheels in the tracks. Tank commander knows how to do all the positions, doesn't do any maintenance since they are usually in briefings on maintenance day. A good crew knows how to begin to think alike, doing things together without asking. It helps that you sleep together in the tank, so you all get to know each other pretty intimately, nothing like pissing in a water bottle to remove any shyness between crew members. When it comes to maintenance, you can either have all the gunners from the platoon get together and work on all the platoon's tanks together, same with drivers/gunners, or each crew can do their own tank. Usually we prefer the first option because it goes quicker. In this case, my crew was sent to support an infantry exercise on a different base in the middle of the desert on our own. We were simulating a whole tank company, but budget cuts meant only 1 tank was sent. Sunday we got to base and deployed with our tank down into the exercise area. Monday, Wednesday night we exercised. Thursday morning the drill ended and it was maintenance day. Crucial element here is that you don't get to go home for the weekend until your maintenance is complete, the flip side being that you could leave as soon as maintenance was completed and signed off on. The entire exercise the driver was being a complete ass. I don't know if his girlfriend broke up with him or whatever, but he was even more annoying than usual. Aside from his attitude, his driving was so bad that he almost broke a rib one time, and I nearly got a black eye when shooting in motion and he unintentionally, I'm sure, aimed straight for a small ditch. By the time Thursday came around, the loader and I couldn't get rid of him for the weekend quickly enough. But alas first, maintenance backend. One of the tasks the gunner has to do is clean the cannon with the oiled cleaning rod. This is a 3-man job, loader in the tank and 2 people clean it from the outside. It can't be done by one person no matter how strong they are. I asked the driver to help me since the loader was inside the tank. The driver angrily told me he didn't want to hear from me or speak to me. No worries. I found somebody to give me a hand for a few minutes and we got the job done. I completed the rest of my maintenance work pretty quickly, like I said, not much, actually, with the help of the loader, and then I gave him a hand cleaning the machine guns. The 2 of us were done before lunchtime, just waiting for the TC to sign off on our work so we could start our weekend early. Driver, on the other hand, realized that he didn't have any other drivers to help him maintain the truck's tension, tightening bolts, greasing ports, etc., and he had told us to F off. He was still working on the tank when it got dark and was told to stop for safety reasons. He had to continue the job on Friday morning and missed out on a day of leave. I want to say that his attitude changed on Sunday when we got back to base, but it didn't. Thankfully, after about 2 more months of his nonsense, he was transferred out. I have no idea where he is today. I'm still good friends with the loader and TC. The driver can get bent.